everyone! In today's video, I'm going to show you a really cute little ghosty design with a bright orange nail. And so I just love that bright orange color, it's just so Halloweeny to me, but then it's got the bright white ghost and then a bright green bow on the ghost with a little skull in it. So if you don't really like the ghost and you like the skull bow, which I personally love, you could do a set that just had the skull bows on it too, because that part of it is probably my favorite element of this design. So I hope you guys like it as much as I do, and don't forget to check out Helen's design too, and I'll put a link for hers in the description box below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
I'm going to begin with an overlay of a super bright orange. I wanted this entire design to be very cute and very just cheery, I guess you can say, as far as Halloween stuff goes. Typically you don't hear the word cheery as a descriptive for this, but I was really wanting to go for something less creepy for this particular design. So I'm going to, after I've got the orange down, then I encapsulated it with clear acrylic, and I'm going to be filing it into shape with my e-file to remove any lumps, bumps, imperfections, etc., and make sure that my apex is in place and everything else is smoothed out and nice and blended down. So now with white acrylic, I'm going to begin sculpting the shape of my little ghost. The cool thing with sculpting a ghost is that you can kind of have some freedom with it and, you know, control those curves however you want, because it's a ghost and there's really no rules for a ghost. So I've got kind of an elongated teardrop shape where the point of it goes down instead of up, and then I'm going to just sort of tuck in the sides. My white acrylic was fairly thin, so I could get that nice thin line on the bottom of my ghost. So then I just went and I sort of sealed in all of the edges of the white shape so that they didn't fade out as much. I added a second coat of acrylic to my ghosty to give him a little bit more height, or her, I suppose, probably a her with the bow, up to you, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going to add two little ghostly arms on the sides with white acrylic. And if you wanted to skip the arms, like I said, you kind of have freedom with a ghost for whatever you want, you certainly could. Or you could make them like up with like little hands, or yeah, however you like. There's a lot of different options when you're sculpting a ghost. So there's the other little arm on the other side. And then I'm also going to take that white acrylic and I'm going to be sculpting my ghost's eyes. This is something that you can either sculpt or you can just paint on, but because the eyes are white against the white background of the ghost, in order to make them just a little bit more visible, I wanted to use some three-dimensional acrylic to bring them up and out so that you could easily see them. So now in a nail form backing, I'm going to be sculpting my bow with bright green, and I'm going to start with 2 beads of that bright green acrylic, and then I'm going to shape them into a petal shape. So pat them out and then create very soft little points on the long ends of the oval that you created. So just go like that, and then you get to wait just a second. When the acrylic sets up enough that it's going to hold its shape but not be hard, then you're going to slide your brush under one side and then very carefully fold that side of the bow in half. Repeat for the other side, fold in half. You don't want to pinch the end, so you want to have a loop in the sides of the bow still, so just only thing that's going to touch is that very tip. And then with white acrylic, I'm going to be sculpting a teeny tiny little skull on my nail form backing. And I'm doing it right next to my bow loops, because that way I get the sizing right. If you sculpt it, you know, away from them, you might not have as good a time of eyeballing the size to make it look right. So I've got a little dotting tool I'm using to create the eye sockets in my skull. And then I'm going to glue everything together with some nail glue on the nail. So I'm going to start by gluing the 2 loopties of the bow on. Just take a little bit of nail glue and place those down. I love using a tweezers for placing little bits like this because it makes the precision just so much more accurate. If you're trying to use your fingers, sometimes your fingers are super klutzy. At least if you're me, especially when I'm wearing gloves, it just seems like nothing ever goes where I tell it to with just my fingers. So that little angled tweezers that I have is the best thing ever. Then I'm going to attach the little skull with actually some white acrylic instead of just using nail glue, so that it can kind of sit up a little bit higher off of the bow. And then after I have all of those done, then you can go through and you can do some little details with acrylic paint. How much acrylic paint detail you do is completely up to you. You can do a whole bunch of detail and do some shading on your ghost and go kind of crazy with it, or you can keep it super simplistic. I wanted my ghost to have a little bit of almost a kawaii type feature. So once I get around to his mouth or her mouth, you'll see. I'm gonna add some highlights with white paint here and there all over my ghost and the skull. My white paint's a little bit brighter than the white acrylic, so you can do highlights with it and it looks phenomenal. And then with black, I'm going to be filling in the eye sockets of my little skull and the nasal cavity, add some outlines around those eye sockets, add a little bit of detail to the skull up above, and then you're also going to want to add some teeth. So you don't have to overdo the teeth on the skull, but just a little bit kind of helps. I'm going to do some outlines around my entire little ghost. So just to keep it so that the background orange stands out really nicely against my ghost. Like I said, this design is on the cutesy realm of things. And so adding those extra outlines kind of makes him stand out a little bit more and adds to the cute factor, makes him a bit more cartoonish. So add those little outlines all around. The shapes are pretty smooth, so it's pretty easy to outline. Add that little mouth, like I said, kind of on the side of being kawaii, not necessarily exactly like that, but on that side of the spectrum. Outline those eyes. Again, white against white isn't the easiest to see, so if you use a black outline, it really helps to make them pop. And if you happen to have any outlines that don't look quite right, you can always fix them up with a little bit more white paint since you have that available to you. I'm going to take some dark green paint and add some shading on the bow, just a little bit to make it a little more three-dimensional looking. And then after I have all of that, I'm going to be adding the pupils to my little ghosty and then little white highlights. Just a couple dots in each eye, and that is it for the painting. Once you're done, you can apply a layer of gel sealer over the background, make that orange super shiny, and then after that's cured, I'm going to apply some matte top coat over my ghost, over the skull, and over the bow. Even if you guys don't like the ghost element of this design, that little skull bow is so cute. I would definitely do that as part of a set. I think that would look amazing, and if you do, please share recreations with me on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to see them, and I will see you next time. Bye!